We are ready to create a drawing for a rotator assembly. We'll be making an exploded view and a bill of materials for these, and then the drawings for these components. All right, so let's start with the exploded view. It lives inside of the assembly. Um, Creating a separate assembly file, which I often get, does not do anything for you. It makes make things more confused. So what we want to do is the exploded view will live underneath the configurations, and I've mentioned configurations a couple of times. So in the exploded view, we need to pick an object and then drag it some distance. If I want to make it a little bit more, a little bit less, I can modify. So maybe that goes to 3 and a tab, and then I want to make sure to click done. If I do more than one, so if I take both of those components and I drag them out, then they will move together. And maybe I'll go 1.25, that looks pretty good. And we go ahead and accept. All right, so to get back to the exploded view, I'm in the configuration manager, have a default and an exploded view with the individual chains or steps for the explode. We made this static, and I don't know that we need an alternate position view, but since we're doing the configuration, let's add a configuration so that I can create an alternate position for the drawing. Okay, so that collapses it. It becomes the current. If I want to go back to the explode, I'm going to double click on the feature or right click and uh, well, double click and then double click again. All right, and then double click to collapse. And if we go back to the alt position, then on the link, I can find the angle either under that component, would be the last one, or if we go to the mates, I can find it in the full list, and well, it would also be the last one. And no, I don't want to rename it. Oh, edit the feature, and if we have the multiple configurations, now you will have this little box with the stack of, do you want it for this configuration? All configurations are specific. Well, we only have 2, and we are in the alt position. I can tell because it shows up in the description. And maybe I want to send this to 120 degrees. All right, so it comes back around and we accept it. And anytime we do a little configuration like this, we want to double check. Oh yeah, and if you happen to grab the bar, you can drag it back up or double click on the point, and that will collapse send the bar back to the top. All right, so 30 degrees, exploded view, alternate position. So now I have more than I probably need for this. So we would also, if we wanted a dynamic, so let's go ahead and discuss the dynamic. If I added a configuration, and right now my default is static, and the alt position will serve a purpose here in a second. And we suppress. All right, so go to the suppression state. Now in the dynamic, this is free to move, and we kind of double check that everything. If I didn't create the alt position and I decided I needed it, this would be the configuration that I'd want to be in to define it from the drawing, but that's a little later. All right, in the drawing, we're going to create a new document, go to our drawing, Keep in mind if you're only seeing the ISOs, your only show standard formats is checked. We're going to go with the ANSI landscape. And I like to pick between the model view and the view palette. We're going to do a little bit of both. So since the rotator assembly is open, oh yeah, if you want the model view to come up each time you open a new drawing, you'll want to check the start command when creating new drawing. All right, so we can pick this guy. We'll go to the isometric. I want the default configuration. It's going to pick the one that was left last time. And while I'm there, I'm going to go ahead and say show it in the exploded state. Since we can have more than one exploded view, trying out different looks and views, then we would also need to pick that. So when I place this, we have it in position. And then if I Control C on the keyboard and Control V, it's going to make a duplicate, but I can turn off the show in exploded state and end up with the collapsed as a reference. So typically we're going to add the bill of materials to the exploded view a little more visible. We'll go into the right click, go to the tables, and bill of materials. And we'll just use the standard top level. I haven't created any customs and we haven't put any descriptions in yet. So realistically, I don't need the description, so I can right click and delete that column. And if I'm going to do this regularly, or I want to add or take away, I can also right click and pick, let's see if I can undo that. All right, so if I undo it and we go to the properties, well, there are my two part numbers or my two file properties, the part numbers and the material. So that's kind of handy. Let's go ahead and insert a column right, and that will sort of mess it up. But double click in D, we'll go with material. And just like in Excel, if I grab the header bar that separates, then I can resize those. So let's say I wanted to use this one again. I can right click and do a save as. It's going to go to the default or not. So I would want to find a place where this can live safely. Usually I would put it in my folder. So well, let's go ahead and make a new folder, see what it does. So if I do SolidWorks system, and probably will make one for the bill of materials in case I end up with more, and this will be part number and material. All right, just something that I can go back to and pick. All right, so since each of these has an item number, now we would be looking at the annotations going for balloon. Auto balloon has come quite a ways in picking geometry, so we have the choice of going all around in a square pattern since there's three. You can do circular, line them all up to one side, top or bottom. And actually the bottom looks pretty good. If I click, these are all on a magnet line. So I can take one out of the magnet line or add it back to the magnet line. And then if we add another part and I want to move those around, then they move as a group and with the spacing. So make sure to highlight it, make sure you get the little magnet symbol, and then it will move accordingly. On the endpoints, then, if we want to tighten up or open up the spacing as you drag the arrows, that will make those more available. All right, so I still have that shadow, and what I determined is Control Q does um, a full rebuild, and whatever's going on with that can pull it pull it back into the view. So we'll name it rotator drawing or just the rotator geometry. We have that option. All right, so at this point, if you want to make these separate sheets, you would close this, open up a new sheet, import your link, your cross link. I prefer drawing packages, so I'm going to add the next sheet. And we have a couple of ways of bringing these in. So let's go back to the model view and browse. And we'll bring in the L link since they gave it to us in that order. So sort of an advantage of the multiple views is I can pick, or the model view is that I can pick multiple views, and we go ahead and get the geometry in. All right, and then of these views, I don't really need the top and the right, so I think this time I'll go ahead and delete the top view. Um, it does present a little bit of a problem not having the back, so I kind of lean towards the hidden lines removed. But if we do hidden lines visible, that would have the same effect. Not really supposed to dimension to hidden lines. We'll get into that a little bit further. Um, but we go into the smart dimension. We can build those. And let's see, that was the radius and then the diameter to add. Let's see if it'll pop up here. So there's our choices. Nope, I was looking for the dimensioning box. So well, since it's not coming up this time, I'm just going to call it out 2 times. And then on the smart dimension for base, we'll end up with 10 millimeters, 15 millimeters, and 10 millimeters. Okay, so a little bit where it looks good. First part of the process is just to get the views established. If there's a lot of parts, I will usually go through and create the sheets, add each of the components, set the views, and then come back and worry about dimensioning. And then the next pass, the next iteration, is for tolerancing and analysis. All right, so in the view palette, let's do that again. Over on the task pane, you have the 1, 2, 3, fourth one down is the view palette. Let's go into the ellipse or the dot, 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 and we'll grab the cross link. And if I drag it in on the front, I can look at, because it goes right into projected view, I can look at it in the top or the right. Either one of those will work, and we can put in an isometric and then go ahead and accept. All right, so this did not come in with center marks. So not exactly sure why it did not, but let's go ahead and put in for all holes. And I ran into this before. Make sure that I'm picking the face. And it should recognize them. Make sure I'm not missing anything. Oh, so it's trying to do it at the center. And I'm not telling it to go for slots, but it put one in on the slot. So let's see if we pre-select those, select control select, center mark, no. I went back to that. So I guess one of the downsides of picking uh, the hop around or the slot in the drawing. I know there's a way to do that. Can't think of it right now, but we will come back to it. All right, so we had first group of dimensions. Those all look pretty good. And the last one will be for the block. So we'll go back to the view palette. I need to click the dot dot dot, accept the plate, bring in the front plane. Again, I think probably the front and right view. And I keep seeing the mouse pop up with that OK. Occasionally I remember to hit that one, but if you pause long enough, you'll be able to click on the right mouse button to end the creation of the views. All right, so the isometric view is a little big, so I'm going to change it to a custom scale and go to half. So remember, each of the views has the ability to scale by itself, and then if I wanted to scale the whole drawing or the drawing sheet, I would be picking from the scale at the base, and then the last one is, and I believe I had to, in one of the videos I did a customize the menu. I'm not seeing my little blocks. Anyway, if the properties is not available, customize the menu and check the box for it. And then if you go into the properties, this is everything from the sheet name that's down here, the scale, making sure we're in third angle, sheet sizes, all of those will be available. All right, so one more pass on the dimensions. 120. Oh, and I did not put a 2 times on that on the other one. Okay, and then location-wise, have to kind of decide. Let's go ahead and escape so I can move this around. So if I put that way, yeah, that's going to be a little annoying with the video card, but so yeah, didn't have any problems putting putting the center marks in on this one. So 40. And again, if you prefer to be in the ANSI standard, add one more here. The ANSI standard, we would go up to the options, make sure we're in the document properties, and the drafting standard, we'd be able to pick from those drafting standards. And then quick Control Q to get it to refresh the screen. And that gives us a good first pass. Again, I'm not really looking for fully detailed to ASME WIFE 14.5 or ISO dimensioning schemes, just that you get the process of inserting the views, getting usable dimensions, and as you generate more drawings and create more parts, you will get a better sense of the things that are required. Okay, so this is an add-on to the drawings. Probably the first order of business is on sheet 3. I said it when I was figuring out the center marks. I used a slot, and I completely overlooked the 4 all slots. So that puts one in the center. If we come down, I can put them at the endpoints of the slot, which just happen to be the endpoint or the center points of the circle. So that kind of takes care of that one. All right, in our view, we created an alternate position. So I would like to see if in the drawing we have an alternate position view, and it doesn't come up very often, but since I created it, I have the alternate position. If I do new, it will launch the assembly and then ask us to pick a new location, and it will create that for us. But since I have it, let's go ahead and it kind of um, shows the hidden lines or the phantom lines of the another location. So maybe not real clear what's going on there. Certainly from the front plane would be able to see a little bit more. And we can probably go with the scale. We'll try 1:1, but like kind of like what I expected, a little bit bigger than needed. So if I go to user defined, I can do a 3/4 scale. In my opinion, there's nothing that says it has to be one of the items on a list. Otherwise, they wouldn't have given us user defined and said, "Hey, make it what will look good." All right, so that kind of takes care of the immediate items. So one thing that we can do to make this a little more presentable is if I go into dimensions. All right, so this layer came from, and let's see if there's a tools, and I don't remember one on the parts. Okay, so there's layer properties. So that would put us into it. If you don't have one of these, right click, and on the toolbars you can go to layer, and it usually shows up at the bottom or in the corner, and you can put it um, on the lower part of the screen. All right, if I go into the layer properties and do a new, and we name one dims, then we can find a nice readable color. And then the other one would be to, oh, and I should have just created another new, but I can do centers, and that would just cover the center marks and the center lines. And I usually do something little on the darker side, but in the reds. Sometimes I've done the magentas or the greens. Just kind of again a personal preference. So if we go to the balloons and I do a control select, on the property manager, there should be a layer selection that says, let's go ahead and do those um, as that layer. And then same. Now, if I wanted one in notes and we did want to make it green, I would just create another layer. All right, so in this case, I have the filters turned on. If you don't have filters, F5 shows and hides, and F6 toggles being active, but I haven't activated anything. So what I want to select for is dimensions, so that I grab all of the dimensions. And let's see, is it going to be under other? Yeah. So I can switch those two dimensions. And ideally, I would think about and create this first, or when we build a template, I'm going to build this into the template. And whatever's selected down here when we do the insert would be the item that is selected. So whenever I see that pink funnel, that means that I am still in the filter, and I will only be able to select the item that is filtered for. So one more, other, layer, dims, okay. All right, so if I turn off the dimensions and I go for center marks and center lines, we don't have any center lines on this, but again, if I window pick, I should be able to get those items and then to centers. And that looks reasonably looks reasonable. So let's go ahead with setting the centers for each of these. And it just brings a little contrast and makes it maybe a little bit more readable to our parts. Okay, so that takes care of the drawing. Oh yeah, we need to toggle the filters off. So F6 will on the keyboard will toggle the filters, and then whatever was selected last, if I'm going to turn those back on, now I'm toggling for those two, the center marks and the center lines, next time I need them. What else did I have on my list here? So I'll just mention the renaming. With everything open, it's not going to let me do anything drastic, but if I come over to Windows File Explorer, and I'll find a better example of this, but you don't just want to rename out of the Windows Explorer, because if we go to the rename in here, it shows that it is used in the rotator assembly. We haven't gotten to virtual components yet, but when I rename this and hit OK, then it also, most of the time, maybe not every time, but most of the time, it will make it so next time I open up the assembly or next time I open up the drawing, it won't be looking for plate, it'll be looking for the new name. So just a couple things that want to mention, and we'll do more examples of those later.